Does it work? Good. Much better. Okay. So there's Swamiji giving public talks, giving small satsangs, being around people, and being in this final time of his incarnation. And he would start to tell the story of meeting Yogananda, story we'd heard many times. He would often tell it, so that newcomers and old-timers, we could always relive that moment when the disciple meets the guru, when he meets Yogananda, and what happened at that time. Very meaningful. We could all relate to it. So he would tell it over and over. Each time it seemed new. You know, it wasn't an old story. He was new in it, and we were walking with him through it each time. And then it reached a point where he couldn't really get through very often without just tears would stream. He just said, my heart is just, tears would stream. And during this same time, he said, I just feel so much bliss. I'm embarrassed when the tears come and I'm in front of people, but I can't help it. It's just happening. You know, he was just so very tender in his heart and very expanded in his heart and very sensitive. She mentions one story of him watching Bernadette of Lourdes, a beautiful movie some of us saw as children, or we watch it fairly regularly. Whenever I can talk Biraj into watching it, we put it on again. Yeah. It's the story of Bernadette of Lourdes, to whom the Divine Mother appeared in a white vision, but a consciousness that was loving and uplifting, and you watch her whole life change around tuning into that energy of the Divine Mother through Mary's apparition to her. And beautiful story. And Swamiji was watching it with the group. And it reached the point where Bernadette was just like this innocent angel always, a very wonderful, good person in her family, and the one who always tried to see the best and do the best. And she was afflicted with ailments as a child, never complained, helped her family as much as she could, and then had Mary come to her as a child. And her life then, in that day, what she could have as a life was to go off into the convent. So that was what she was advised. You know, now that you've seen the Divine Mother and these miracles are happening around you, you can't live in the world anymore. You have to go. And she kind of wanted to get married and have a family, or help a family live in the world. But she was given this as her dharma. So she went into the monastery, the convent, and there was an older nun who had grimly followed all the rules, scrubbed longer, and had more pain in her knees from scrubbing the floor, and more tapasya, and more, and she was just this old, and she hadn't had a deep experience of God, even though she'd spent her whole life giving all this, you know, over and above kind of tapasya energy with her service. And so she didn't want it, but it just sprung out of her heart. She had this jealousy of Bernadette, because here's this little girl at 12, 13, whatever she was, very young, and God comes to her in the form of Divine Mother, and she's lifted up, and miracles are happening, and everybody knows it. And, you know, Bernadette is very shy, very inward, shy. She's very humble, but this nun becomes very upset and bitter, and starts treating her very badly while she's in the convent. And when that part of the movie started happening, where Bernadette was suffering, she had tuberculosis tumor on her leg, and she was reading her prayer book that the nuns had. Was it a cloister order? I'm not remembering. I don't know. I forget. I don't think so. Anyway, she was there with the nuns. They were walking in a circle doing their reading, and she was limping. And she just kept reading, you know, focusing on the story of the saints that she was reading about, and about God and their love for God. And then this older nun came up to her and said, "You're just trying to fake it for sympathy. You're just limping because, you think you're special and God came to you and you have this little thing and you're just limping, so we'll all feel sorry for you and take care of you." And Bernadette had no reality about that. So she said, no, I don't deserve anything. I haven't done anything. You've done so much more for God. I haven't done anything. And the nun said, "I just wish there was some way that I could understand why God chose you." And Bernadette said, I don't know why. I don't know how I can help you. I'm just, I'm nothing. But she said, "Oh, maybe this will help you. Maybe this will help you." And then she just raised her habit a little bit, and there was this big ulcer there on her leg that she'd just been quietly, enduring. Anyhow, Kali Yuga, older form, a lot of suffering, in the body, and so she was having that experience. And so Swamiji's watching this movie, and he started crying, and his heart was hurting so much. He said, "Narayani, please turn it off. I can't watch it. I can't watch how much this person is suffering and how the people who sometimes have been in convents over incarnations, over history, who've been mistreated by the elders and how unfair that is, and I just can't bear it. Please turn it off." So he was so sensitive. I mean, in his younger years, a robust man. He was very impersonal and, much more, a warrior, much more masculine. But as he, was finishing his incarnation, this tender-heartedness just started being his way of, merging in God, was kind of this melting of the heart and this feeling of bliss and this tenderness. So Narayani was with him during that time. And one of the other stories I wanted to talk about, which is why we chose the first chant, which was, we thought, okay, part of the theme of these few chapters here involve a time when Swami was in LA and he was helping the work, Ananda's work, grow there. And he was coming toward the end of his life, and he was trying to resolve things in his life, as elder people often do. Often people get a terminal diagnosis and they're sent home to take care of your resolve, get your affairs in order. Thank you for that. To get your affairs in order, when you're at that last little bit of your life. And so Swamiji's version of that, he had some things still that he was working on. And one of the things he was working on was resolving that energy, the relationships and the energy between SRF, his older sisters, Dayamata especially, and Ananda. They kicked him out, didn't understand him, didn't trust him. That whole thing that was his greatest suffering in his life, is the thing that hurt his heart the most. So he was at the last phases of his life, and that was something trying to be resolved. So he wrote a book because he was getting older. Dayamata was a little older than he was. And he always felt, because Master had given him leadership responsibility when he was in the ashram with everybody, that they were brothers and sisters together, and he was given responsibility to help train people and help guide SRF as the vice president of SRF. So, and he had karmic closeness with the brothers and sisters who lived with Yogananda when he was there. It was a family kind of karma. And you know how it is with families. Sometimes sisters don't get along with brothers, and they have this thing that they do at family reunions, and you always can feel the tension, and then you hope someday they're going to be healed and they're not going to have that anymore, and you don't know if it's going to be in this life or the next life, and you pray for it, and it's in God's hands. But so even spiritual people, high souls who live with self-realized masters, still sometimes have these karmic things from whatever lives that they're still working out. So those of us who were around him, and Narayani mentions, you could see that this was still there for Swamiji. So the way he handled it was interesting for many of us. For me personally, it was very interesting because he wrote a book. He had written many letters. He had turned the other cheek. He had worked with this energy of his Guru Bhais for
By then, let's see,
40.
He got kicked out in 62. We're now talking 90, so almost 30 years.
At least, so, almost 30 years of working with that relationship by writing, praying.
Actually, by now it was 40 years, because this was when Mata almost died.
Yeah, and so anyway, so he, as his, to be cheeky about it, as his expiration date was approaching, he was getting very old in his body. You could see, I'm not going to be around probably for 10 years, and then maybe I'm not going to be around for 5 years. As it was getting now, he would put more energy into trying to clarify the issues and the karma all around it, and he would put more energy. And then he wrote a book. I think its first title was Yogananda Rescuing Yogananda something. But he really let them have it, is a way to look at it. I mean, he pointed out errors in judgment. He pointed out a lot of the ways that he felt they had not done the job that Yogananda would wanted for all of them to do, ways they'd made mistakes. He really got very pointed about it and very clear. And it was a hard book to read for some of us. And then Dayamata passed right as he was finishing the book.
I think she passed 2 days before it was going to
be published.
It was a book launch, kind of.
It was a book launch, that's right. And then suddenly nobody knew she was ready to pass. She was elderly, but suddenly that timing was there. And Swami's in LA ready to launch this book into the Southern California where SRF devotees are strong there and have their organizational headquarters. And I remember reading that book and then knowing that Dayamata had just passed, and I thought, oh my, Swamiji, I'm a nice person. We can't put this book out now. I mean, he actually asked me, we were visiting there, and I visited him, and he asked me, right? He said, I wrote that book. I said, yes, Swamiji, I've been reading it through the stages. It's really strong, and you really said a lot of truth that's like tough love kind of truth. And he said, so Dayamata's passed. Do you think I should publish it? I said, well, I don't know, Swamiji. Maybe you want to wait a little while because you want to honor her life, and it's good to say positive things about people when they pass. And so I had this sort of thing. And he looked right at me. He was always challenging me to be more of a warrior because I didn't come in with that. So he looked at me, and then he looked around the room, and he said, now I know it's the right thing to publish the book because Lahari says that we probably should wait. So it's obviously, I was just testing the waters, and the wimps among you are going to say, let's wait. But and so it was strong, and it was not easy for some of us at that moment. But knowing Swami and being around him, and Narayani tunes into this so beautifully, why was he doing that? Why would most people do that? Most people would do something like that to set the record straight. A little bit of history did need to be filled in for Master's work going forward. So there was some information that needed to get out there. That's true. But why would he do it? Maybe there would be some ego edge in there where, I was right and they weren't. That is something that most people would maybe have. Or a little bit of, you treated me so badly, now I'm going to show that, I shouldn't have been treated badly. But as I meditated on it at the time, and as Narayani tuned into him closer, she was there with him every day while that was happening in LA, that he loved them enough to want to speak the truth. It wasn't just that he loved Yogananda's vision of the work that had, that Yogananda had told him he had a great work to do. He tuned into that. He had done a great work. He had senses of the World Brotherhood colonies, things that were different that he was doing that others weren't doing. But certain attitudes that he pointed out, certain ways that a devotee can get it wrong that were important to put out there. And the motivation was history through time. But the part that touched me the most was that he was doing it out of love for his spiritual brothers and sisters. He wanted to help her before she died. Especially Dayamata, to have a moment, to have an ability, an opportunity to look at her life a little more objectively and to see maybe there's some choices she might make the next time, to face these things. Swami often spoke and has written about what he calls the final exam, which is when the soul leaves the body, that last period when you're getting ready to have the soul go out of this costume, this form, this vehicle that we're all running around in now, that it's so important, that last period, because the consciousness you have, and if you can resolve your resentments and regrets, and you can look to the light and be focused on the light, your next incarnation will be influenced strongly by whatever consciousness you hold. So it's best if you can get your affairs in order on every level you can before you leave the body, so that you can have not just a beautiful, lovely death that we've seen many devotees have when they've surrendered more and love God more and more at the end, can focus more and, give it to God, release the things that are still hurting. Swami reminded us, the things that bring us back incarnation after incarnation are regrets, and the other one, unfulfilled desires. I don't remember the exact word he used for it, but it's basically, if you desire something and you still have that active desire and you haven't gotten it, that can propel you back to have it. The other part is, I don't like that person, that was so mean, they did this, I feel resentment, or I regret. Resentments and regrets. I regret that I did that bad thing, or if only I'd done better. It holds you. It holds you in your ego when we have those thoughts and we focus on those thoughts, and we all fight that tendency all throughout. We're encouraged at the end of life as much as possible to just forget all that stuff. Just give it to God. Don't hold on to anything if you can help it. Just let go of all the feelings, all the identifications that are smaller, really try and ascend into spirit as much as you can freely. So, how many of us can say and know this is the last life we're going to lead? Well, I don't think I'd take a poll, and I wouldn't ask myself that question right now, because I probably know the answer I would give. And I don't want to hold God's hand. I want to be free whenever the moment comes. So the way to do that is to, resolve. So Narayani said when she was around Swami and he was writing that book, there were times when he would have these unidentifiable pains, and a few times, one time she was with him and staying most of the nights because he was so frail and difficult sleeping and different things, so she would be on the couch listening and being part of the care team, mostly his care team, overnight, and so she heard a thump on the floor, so she ran into the room and, oh my gosh, Swamiji, you felt, and he said, no, something pushed me out of bed. Something pushed me. I felt it. And another time he was living in Pune, and he was in his shower, and he was supposed to give a talk that night, I believe, and he was, and then next thing we knew, Swami has fallen, and he's got all these bruises, and it delayed things while they figured out if he was okay. And then people said, oh, Swami, I'm so sorry you fell. He said, I did not fall. I was pushed. I was pushed. And so these things may seem a little bit strange, but the way Swami described it, he said, yes, he said, what's happening is there is a battle going on the astral plane between the forces of light and the forces of darkness. That's what's going on. We had our Sunday service this past week, which is Satan real? Yogananda simply said, I add my testament to those before. Satan is a real force. It's really there. It's the darkness that's always trying to bring on the negativity, bring on the smallness, the hatefulness, the resentment, a lot of things we see going on in our society today. We wouldn't call that the light. We wouldn't call it love and unity and hope, and we would call it darkness. So that battle is how Swami related all these things. So, yes, there was the microcosm of he and Dayamata, kind of fighting on this astral level, but he was always looking toward, how do we focus on the light? Yes, I'm being physically attacked. I'm burning off karma on my body. These things are happening to my body. I'm feeling this force push me out of bed and get injured. Yes, these things are going on. And it always strikes me to look at Swami's life, especially the last period when he had so many physical things. What did he do about it? What did he do? What did he choose? That's why we chose this song instead of one of the other songs, which was Ram Tirtha's song, which is the warrior song that we have from Yogananda. None can atone me, who will injure me? The warrior that nothing stops me, and I will slash, and I will win, and I will fight, and I will, succeed, and, nothing will stop me. And being said from a saint, Ram Tirtha, that he wasn't talking about doing bad things. He was talking about doing good things, but he was going to fight like the warrior best warrior of all time to get those good things done. And Swamiji had a lot of warrior in him, so we thought, let's honor this warrior because, there's light and dark. But, I will quote a little line from Michelle Obama's talk at the National Convention, which she's a very inspiring lady to me. She said, it's fine, the world is what it is, and there's this darkness that's there, there's this feeling of division that can happen, that we're different, that nobody, that we get negative and resentful and all the things she was using great words about. But what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do of it? Do something. And then, I don't know how many thousands of people were in the thing. I don't know, somebody has a number, 30,000 people in that convention hall. I don't know how many, a lot. It would scan it, and it was like, the Super Bowl crowd. It was huge. And they took these little things, little snap things, like the memes are so popular now. So they would seize on a phrase, and then the whole crowd would start repeating it spontaneously. Some of them you could tell they were fed ahead of time and they knew to say that phrase. But this particular one, her talk is there. So this and this and this and this and this and this. What happens? Do something. So the whole crowd's do something. And that's what Swamiji did and modeled for us. He was always doing something to bring in the light. That was his main way of fighting the darkness. Now, he was willing to go to court. He was willing to write those letters. He was willing to write that book. This is wrong. This shouldn't be happening. This happened. He was willing to be prosecutor's too strong, but he was willing to make the case of the truths that he'd seen against opposition. But really, his gift was he did it for love. He did it even when he had to get personal in a way. He did that for love. He did the music. He did the books, the communities, the people, the counseling, his whole life was bringing the art, his whole life was bringing in, he was doing things to bring in the light. That's really what, Ananda's means joy, it means bliss. And for many of us, I think that was, maybe perhaps is or was, the most attractive thing about it. Instead of the conditional happiness that comes and goes that, we've seen, all of us, that ends in disappointment or suffering or just doesn't last, the temporary kinds of things, that state of consciousness that has no dual, as Swami mentioned. Bliss is a state that has no dual. Everything else, you're going to have good and bad. You're going to have happy and sad. But in bliss, it's beyond the duality because it becomes that oneness. So that state of freedom in bliss, it's Ananda's well named because that's what we're all headed for. And between here and there, I always am encouraged, and one of the reasons I love reading this book from Narayani is that she leads with love. Her way of being with people, her way of being with Swami, her way of relating to the Guru, to the path, to others is, just who she is. It just, that love just flows through. And, Swamiji too. So adding light where there's darkness. So fighting, I remember once realizing, being, having the razor's edge because everything is, if you're too much of a bhakti, your feelings can draw you down and not help you rise when you just need the clarity of wisdom to get over some of the feelings of life that come. We need all those aspects, but I forgot what I was going to say.
The need to fight sometimes.
The need to fight, right. I was trying to embrace, being a peace lover, and what do you mean Yogananda was William the Conqueror, this warrior that had to fight during all those times and all those things he did during that low, oh my goodness, I can't relate to that. That's difficult. How could that be? And then the Bhagavad Gita, it's a battlefield and you got to be fighting. And I thought, I don't really want to fight. I'd rather just be loved and happy, and I'd just rather love God, thank you very much. But, and I had to embrace, I had to see, and experience people like Swami and others who know it is a battle of light and darkness, and you have to engage in the battle, and you have to fight. So how do you fight? So I was trying to figure out, how does a person like me fight? I don't like fighting. I don't even really know how to do it in those early days. And I thought, now, I understand about the heart. I understand about feeling God in my heart and loving God with my heart, and God's, I can feel that. I can feel close to God through that. I'm there. So how can I use that? So the word I found that was like this really great bridge was courage. And courage comes from the French word, which means heart. So I thought, I admire people with courage who are willing to stand up and do things that are difficult, and doctors that save lives, that go into people, firemen that go into buildings. I had appreciation for people who gave their life to others on the field of battle in the various ways that it happened. So I thought, if I can just find that courage, that whenever an opposition comes, I choose courage as a step instead of I don't want to fight or I don't know how to fight. Just have the courage and trust that if you put out the energy that you can fight, because we do have to. We have to face, psychology has been telling us for a long, long time, you have to face your darkness, within our own selves. And it's incarnations of it though, so, how many therapy sessions does it take? I remember when I first started and I went, you have to look at your past lives and clear out all that. You have to, so I'm going to go get some past life readings. I'm going to find out what it is I have to clear out. Let's do this. Let's, get this done. I'm ready. Okay, so I showed up at my first one, and then she gave me some stories about this. Oh, that seems right. That's the kind of person I am. Yeah, I got to work on that. Okay, great. Then I go to another one. Oh, no, and then I got to work on that and that and that. And I realized, and I got serious, and I tried to work on those things with each time. And then I thought, you know what? This is not looking mathematically really great. It looks like I'm going to go and hear about all these past lives and the things that I needed to learn and that I was learning about those. And then, how many past lives did I have? And how long is it going to take me to go clear all those up? It didn't seem like I was going to make progress in the fastest possible way, let's just say. So I was very happy that Kriya Yoga came along and a path for, going from now. What Sri Yukteswar said, the past is past. The past lives of all men are dark with many shames. Everything will improve in future if you're making the right spiritual effort now. So that was very hopeful. So didn't have to do the past life theories anymore, the past life therapies. I just could see today, do what I could with today to bring the light into the world and be an instrument for the light. And that's been the way that's helped me the most, I would say. And Swami's been such a great example, and Narayani's such a great example to just watch what they do and the joy that is all around them while they're doing it, and how magnetic that joy is, and how everybody wants to come along and be part of that joy. And that joy is there for all of us. That's our soul nature, is that joy. So,
I love that example. It was in the last week's reading, but where Narayani decided that Narayani decided to organize all the what do you call
Next Gen at the time it was.
It was the living discipleship students, and to do a big, huge event at the end of that, thing. And what did Swami say about her? Well, not only did she throw herself so into it completely, so much energy, so much willingness, but she threw herself so much into it that it broke her foot. And what did Swami say? That a girl, or something like that. But it had the right fighting spirit.
And he also said it takes courage to gather people together to do something good. It takes courage. Because she was a shy person in those days and didn't see herself as a leader or a magnetic person who could gather everybody and get everybody to do things. She just didn't have that in her past or see herself necessarily doing that. But she wanted to do something beautiful and have the friends that she knew come together and do it. And so this pure-hearted, it worked so beautifully. Everybody had a great time, and everybody got to participate and be creative, and Swamiji was praising her for that. And in the process, she broke her foot, which did not faze her. She continued all the way to the end of the event, and then got it fixed. But that courage that we all have, if we have a heart, and we all wouldn't be sitting in the chairs. One of the things I do, my holodeck experience, for those of you who know Star Trek, it's what they do when they're on the great mothership and they're tired of working all the things they have to work on the great mothership and the karmas and the things and the saving the world, everything that they're doing, they have this little place they go called the holodeck, and they can program it so that they go in and have a different experience for a while. And one of my holodecks, oddly enough, is shows that have good doctors, good surgeons, and they're in surgery and they're saving people's lives. And we have a lot of those shows happening now. And I go in there and I feel that courage that they're all doing. And I see the drama of life that goes everywhere across the map with all the people and the love and the fear and the everything that goes on in the human drama is so accelerated, sort of, and don't know, it's sort of, I like to practice being a yogi I remember watching with one of my friends, Bella, who was from Russia. She was one of the warrior devotees. My path, Bella was tough. She was tough. She, was just very firm and very disciplined and very, you would call it opinionated, except, you looked at Bella and you just said, well, she's right. She was just right, and she just was strong about it. Somehow we had this special connection. I was the tender-hearted one. And she had a husband who liked war movies, and he liked, heroes and dramatic kind of things like that. So he loved the Terminator movies with Schwarzenegger, yeah. Who, those of you who know it anyway, it's a futuristic thing where a man is a bionic thing, nothing can stop him, and he's a Terminator coming to kill everybody in the world. So people have to stand up against this guy, and so very dramatic things happened. And I was living at Ananda village as a nun out in the country, and I hadn't watched TV. I wasn't seeing any movies, no scenes of violence or upset or emotional kerfuffle, nothing. I was just in this little bubble of, monastic, bliss. And Bella wanted to go see this. And I said, well, Bella, She says, it's good for yogis to see these things. It's good for yogis. So I said, well, if you say so, Bella, what do you mean? Well, go, but do not get engaged. Do not let it affect you. Do not feel, do not react. So, okay, Bella, I'm with you. So I sat next to her in the movie theater, and sure enough, the good guys are getting shot, and people are, it's all the pyrotechnics of guns and shoot-em-ups and very dramatic things going on all around me, and the good, the child is there, and it's all the big dramas, and I looked over at Bella, unmoved. Unmoved. I said, okay, I'm going to also be. So I just practiced being a really in my spine, nothing is bothering me yogi for the whole of the Terminator, and I was amazed.
It was Terminator 2, I think.
I think he was the good guy then.
Okay, so you saw Terminator 1?
It was when he was the good guy.
2, yeah.
Yeah, he was the good guy then. I couldn't have watched, he was so magnetic a character, I couldn't have watched him as a bad guy. He was not that strong. But he was the good guy, so everybody else was against him. And I could walk through the battles with him. I could, support him spiritually without feeling any fear or upset or without having any emotional, I could be even-mindedly, that's the word. I practiced even-mindedly with Bella's help. And so there's a point about being a warrior, I think, that yogis can find and tune into, and it's that freedom of the heart. When we went down, it was the 10th or 11th year of the 12-year lawsuit. It was toward the end of it where a lot had happened and a lot of difficult things had occurred. And so we thought we need to go down to where SRF was having their convocation because there people don't know that this is happening, that SRF is suing Ananda. And we really need to get the word out there because this is adharmic as far as we can see it. We know it is. So let's just stand up for Ananda. So we went down. The way we stood up was by chanting. We just sang all of Swami's music because they needed to know who they were suing, who they were fighting against. So we just...
One day we did all of Swami and Master's chants. The next day we did all of Swami's songs.
Songs, Joys Within You songs. So we sang and we sang and we sang, and there's a song Swami has that says, let joy be my gun. And
joy will be my gun.
Joy will be my gun. So we were able to stand in who we were with great joy, even though the opposition was right there, because we were putting out that positive energy. We weren't being defensive or we weren't trying to go against anybody. We were just being for joy. And the power of that. History books will have their opinions, but many of us who were on it, shortly after that, things tilted. And we felt like there was a force combination of things. There was a force there, people knew. They were also putting pressure behind the scene, but it was a turning point in the energy of it. And it was fighting by a way that all of us could. And this is where I end. I'm glad I remember the end. When we were going down there, it was a big controversy. How do you fight? You shouldn't fight against them. It's their convocation. This is not a good thing. Don't go. A lot of people were in that camp, and you could see the point. Some of us were thinking, is it right?
Most of Ananda village felt that way.
Yeah, well, they were there, and we were kind of more on the front line. It was happening. The newspapers were having things on the street. It was in our news. We were here. It was right on our doorstep. We were on the battlefield. They were a little more removed from the battlefield, so they were thinking a little more and higher. Let's pray about it, which of course we'd been doing for 11 years. But we felt that the impetus, and Swami was behind it, and he said, "But promise me one thing," because Ananda was a little divided. I don't know if it was 40-60, 50-50, but some people wanted it, some people didn't. And we didn't want to have Ananda be divided. He said, "Go, promise me, if you can do it without having any rancor in your heart. No rancor." And this is again someone self-styled enemy who was attacking us for 11 years. That was what he was calling us to do. That's the kind of warrior he was asking us to be. No rancor in your heart. And if anybody starts to get rancor in your heart, promise me you'll just come home. So we have to fight. We have to fight the demons in ourselves. We have to fight the darkness in the world by being instruments of the light. And the main battle, I think, is fighting that there's no rancor in our heart about the negativity. We just don't identify with it as something that we take into our heart. Anyway, didn't know where it was going to go, and that's where it went.
There you go.
Do you want to have this thing?
Yeah. Well, no, this is okay. Yes.
It's that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, let's pick up your books. Hi, you made it. Those of you at home, I hope you have a copy of Narayani's book, The Heart Remembers. Let's start. I'll start off with a couple of passages, and then we'll just open it up for the rest of you to share the ones that really moved you. Let's start with 146 in the chapter Los Angeles. It's near the beginning of that chapter. I was struck by this passage. Let's see where it is. Yeah, it's the second to the last paragraph at the bottom of the page, 146. This is about that same time that Lahari's been talking a lot about. Most of those close to Swami were by his side through many years of SRF's opposition, including the lawsuit. I, being Narayani, had come later, so my only connection was through Swami. And my only concern was to help Swami do whatever he needed to face what was unresolved and to remove from his heart whatever pain he still carried. Let me read that one more time, just the last part. Narayani says, my only concern was to help Swamiji do whatever he needed to face what was unresolved and to remove from his heart whatever pain he still carried. How do you respond to hearing that kind of self-proclaimed job description, if you will, of Narayani as she was watching this whole back and forth with SRF and Dayamata? Thank you, James.
My first thought is that she isn't coming up with what she needs to do for him. Rather, she is talking about being open and intuitive to be there in whatever way he needs her which is, I mean, really amazing when you think about it. It's like not having an opinion
Yeah.
is what I thought of. It's like she's there for whatever may come and to continue to tune into what he needs. And it's beautiful.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. She many times throughout this book talks about just I had to put aside my thoughts and my needs because my job was to just be in tune with what his needs were. What an amazing job description. Ellen?
The incredible part to me throughout the whole book is how she is so in tune to his consciousness and puts hers aside. And there's just example after example of her doing it. And that's an amazing ability to have.
Yeah, no.
I mean, how many others have had that kind of ability? What's that?
It's a little hard to imagine, isn't it? Because
It is.
most of
It
us
really
have
is.
some opinions of our own.
Absolutely.
And some desires of our own. And
Yes,
boy, I
that's
really wish that would happen, but
But to put that
she
totally
couldn't have it. She just knew, there's nothing of me
right.
that's going to make this work. I've got to just surrender and just tune into his consciousness.
Right.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, it is amazing.
Chandra?
I thought it's kind of like a mother taking care of a baby.
Yeah, that's right. The best mothering has to be like that, doesn't it? Just selfless. Just have no desires of your own, really, during that time.
And when the baby can't talk, you really have to figure out when
Got to tune in. What's
when it's
going on
upset,
here?
yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I agree. I think that's neat. Any other thoughts on this remarkable self-definition of what am I supposed to do in this job that I've got with this spiritual teacher?
A father could take care of a baby like that too.
Say again?
A father could take care of a baby like
Yes,
that too. It's not
I'm sure the best ones do.
Yeah, it's just, it's never been encouraged, but now that it's been recognized that men are just as sensitive.
The next
and
generation
wisdom.
is going to do better at it, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Already is. Good.
and we'll all be better for it.
Indeed, indeed.
More balanced.
Let's see, let's jump to another spot in the book. Let's do 157. That's the chapter Ever New Bliss, I was talking about earlier. Let's see where this line is. Oh yeah, it's fourth paragraph down, just before the little doodads in the middle of the page. And that paragraph goes, later Swami called the community leaders. They were dealing with some discord with somebody in the community
A couple.
who had done the wrong thing. Later Swami called the community leaders. I know there are two sides to every story. You have tried in your way, and they have tried in theirs. And here's the line that really struck me. Right now, though, our only concern is to help them heal their pain. Basically, people had gotten really worked up and miffed about, I don't remember the circumstances anymore, but Swamiji really, rather than take sides or discipline the people who were admittedly acting badly, this is how he saw his own role. Our only concern is to help them heal their pain. And again, your thoughts on that as a kind of a job description that Swami gave himself when there were really tough controversies going on in his own community?
Well, that takes courage, a lot of courage to look, to not keep thinking, well, what about me, and just be able to let go of it and realize it's a delusion anyway. And so what you need to do is well, not antagonize the other person at least. So I don't know how much you can, I guess you can just listen to another person and help them heal. You can't really make another person heal.
No.
No, but you can listen and with unconditional love.
Yes. Yes.
And say prayers for them.
It would be easy to judge people who are acting badly and criticize them and tell them how wrong they are. But when we choose to lead with compassion, lead with trying to understand, walking in their shoes, what they're going through. Swamiji was amazing at that, over and over. Other thoughts?
Is that how he was able to write it's Yogananda for the World?
Well, that was the one Lahari was talking
Yeah,
about. You might say that he was hoping to influence how Dayamata would feel in her own shoes. Whether that was part of the controversy. That was a tougher response than this job, than what happened in this situation. And that was what made it so hard, because a lot of people, including Lahari and a lot of us, said, wow, you sure you want to put that out in the public, that there's that much that they need to learn, that they need to think about changing? That was at times you got to fight, at times you got to use compassion. How do you tell the difference? Oh boy, there's a $64,000 question. Shimla, you look like you've got a thought.
There's a couple of things that I was thinking about here. One is that before we get to that section, he reaches out to this couple.
Right.
And the sense that I have is that he truly understood and felt what they were going through. And then the sentence about right now, the only concern is to help them heal their pain. It seems like at that point he took a really strong leadership role. That was his, he was clear, having come from his deeper understanding and experience with this couple. I just have the sense that he knew what they needed, that was clear, and he was it's kind of like stand up for that. That was that leadership that he had to tell the community or
Yeah, he went against what other people in the community thought ought to happen.
This is what we need to do.
Yeah.
And there wasn't any more conversation about it, or I know that was hard for you, or blah, blah, blah. It was like, this is it.
Yeah. It reminds me of a couple other times that I'm remembering in Ananda's history where Swami definitely went way against what the vast majority of the community thought should happen. One was when 25 out of the 26 homes burnt down in 76, right? And the county said, oh, sorry, it was our vehicle that caused the fire. And many of the people who lived right around Ananda village said, oh, good, we can sue the county and we'll get all this money back to be able to rebuild our homes. And Swami said, no, we're not going to take out our bad luck on all these people in the county that would have to pay those taxes. We won't do that. And the community was, really? We're not going to take advantage of what the county offered us? But he just said, that's not dharmic. That's not the right response to the, we are part of them, and to take out our misfortune so that others will share our misfortune. No, we can pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. Another time was when a community member had done a really, really shoddy job of building his home, but now 10, 12 years later, he wanted to move away, and he wanted top dollar before he was going to move away for this really rickety, badly constructed structure. And the community just says, no way, it's not even worth half that. And Swamiji said, it's more important that we give them a chance to leave with their head held high and with some dignity. We can afford to do more than we think is even fair, because they really need this win to be able to go off into their they won't have the support of all the community. We at least have each other, so we can take the hit much better than they can. So we're going to pay them what they're asking. Swamiji just looked at these situations and didn't really. Well, Ananda village never has been a democracy. He liked to use the term. We're creating dharmocracies with our movement. What is the dharma of the situation, not what is the popular thought and whim of the moment. It keeps happening. So I think that's partly what happened in this situation too. Yeah, Chandra.
This might be a blasphemous question.
Oh no, we will find out.
Well, you were talking about Swami being able to just forgive people for their bad behavior, but what I still don't understand, and is I don't understand how he could hang on to SRF, all the things they did to him. Unless I'm just totally misunderstanding the whole situation.
A lot of people in the village had the same feeling. Asha, for a long time, kept questioning Swamiji. Swamiji, they're being outrageous. Dayamata has been horrible to you for 20 years. How can you keep forgiving her? So yeah, it's not blasphemous. There's a whole lot of people that agreed with you for a long time.
Well, no, that's not what I mean.
Oh, did I misunderstand?
I don't think he did forgive her. I think
for a long, long time, he defended Dayamata and much of what SRF and the monks were doing, even though it was terribly disrespectful to him and inconvenient. He defended all those people because he said, they are great spiritual souls. We need to help them understand they may be making some mistakes. But he didn't hate them, not at all.
Well, I don't understand.
Have I misunderstood?
Huh? Well, it just seems to me like when you're a great spiritual soul, then you're a kind, good person.
And that's not what we saw from SRF. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, but I guess I know other examples of that too, and so it's not that way.
There's a lot of people that would agree with you that how can these be great souls when they acted so, what seemed to us, at least from our perspective, adharmically? I don't have an answer for that one.
Maybe it's even like Judas, huh?
Well, Judas took 2,000 years or 1,900 years to become free, but he was a disciple, a great disciple. He was an apostle of Jesus, and he got free. So, he made a mistake, fair enough, but you got to be a pretty great soul to get free. I know it doesn't make sense rationally. A lot of these things you're bringing up, it stretches our ability to understand and figure out why is that okay. It goes against the grain of rationality. Yeah, your question is a good one.
Yeah, so it's just one of those to put on the shelf, like, why am I alive?
I think it could be one of those.
Why are we here?
Yeah. All right, you guys get to create the rest of the curriculum tonight. What parts of those 4 or 5 chapters moved you, caused a stir in you, or you had a question about oh my God, why did that happen? That doesn't seem right. Let's pick it apart a little bit for the next 15, 20 minutes. Who's got a phrase? Yeah, Gertz. Wait, can you describe where it is? Even though you can't say the page? What chapter is it in?
Chapter learning to walk. I have written down.
Learn to walk?
Is in the part 2.
I'm sorry?
Learning to walk.
Learning to walk.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
And
chapter 12.
parts.
It's somewhere after 133. How many pages in would you suppose? Maybe we can try to find
those
it.
parts separated by those separators.
Or-
And the
or-
second part,
So it's right after the first separators?
no, it's, I think, third paragraph before the second separator.
The paragraph before the second separator? Okay. I think that's going to be,
Before the second.
I think it's going to be 138 for us, but let's see. Maybe the bottom of the page.
It says, it is common practice to
Yeah.
associate pride with ego. Shyness is usually brushed off as something harmless. In both cases, however, there is equal identification with ego. Whether you are being praised or pitied, both force the person to dwell too much on himself, drawing focus to the I.
What are your thoughts about that? Narayani, trying to explain how even being shy can be egoic.
Well, that's a good observation. Now I can see that it's probably true. Yeah, it's usually not taken that way.
Say that last sentence again?
It's usually not.
No,
Shyness is
that's
not
right.
taken that way.
That's kind of a controversial way to looking at shyness, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's.
If ego is thinking of self,
Yeah.
then shyness can often be overemphasis on, what are people thinking of me? Oh, what am I going to look like? What are, how am I going to be accepted? All those kinds of things. It's all I.
Yeah, that's something I can think about.
Okay, all right. Any other thoughts on that?
I agree with Gert.
With Narayani's analysis? I must admit, when I read that paragraph, I went, really? It kind of made me think about, I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, it really made me think, and because I tend to be shy, not in situations like this, but like if I go into a crowd or something. But you just got to put your shoulders back and walk in and figure you're just like everybody else there.
There you go. I love the way they talked about Swamiji, that when he would enter a room, he'd always enter heart first.
Yeah.
All this was always leading, rather than. Other thoughts on this paragraph or this analysis by Narayani? Okay.
Do we want to leave time for the last song?
Yes, we will.
Okay.
What other passage in the book has got anyone pondering? Yeah. Good. What page or so?
138.
138. So that's also in the Learning to Walk chapter, Gertz.
Love
Same page we were just on.
It's 139. Did
Oh,
I say
okay.
138? 139. Sorry.
Okay.
I wasn't even close to his level. Many mornings I woke up with the thought, if only I could sleep a little longer. But of course, I wanted to help Swami, and that thought got me right out of bed. One morning, while helping him get dressed, I started sneezing. First one, then another, and another. I couldn't stop. I thought to myself, this is great. If I'm sick, I'll be able to get some sleep. The next page, picking up my thought, Swami said, can't you just use your willpower?
Not very supportive.
There was a kind of strength in his voice that left me almost paralyzed. I barely muttered a response, I'll try, Swamiji. And then more sincerely, more sweetly, he said, the power of the mind can overcome anything.
Yikes.
I just loved the humanness of that. And I related to so many places in the story of her not getting sleep, of her every moment being either with him or thinking of him or listening for him, and then her struggles in the beginning to raise her energy and to be able to match him enough to be able to be with him constantly.
What
And then to have
challenge.
the thought, I sure would like to sleep in. It's like,
Yeah, how human is that? How many of us haven't had that feeling from time to time?
and Swami didn't say, why don't you sleep in tomorrow?
Yeah, he wasn't.
He didn't say that.
He didn't cuddle her. No. Well, partly, he saw her potential, and he didn't want to support things that would keep her from reaching her own potential.
He says that in the next page. I mean, she says that in the next page. She said, after that realization, Swamiji made it his mission to help me improve.
Yeah. That was pretty fun to have her include the page of the email that he sent her, one of the emails he sent her. Now, this is how you can have better English of the letter you wrote me. Wow. He just
Or
took
get your English better by writing me an email every single night.
Right.
And they did that for how long?
Yeah.
I mean,
I know, and to be willing to accept that. Whew. I'm not sure I would have been ready for that.
He was just helping her learn, it wasn't, he didn't really criticize people the way we often think of that. You notice something wrong and you point it out to your friend.
No, that wasn't his nature at all.
It was, well, Narayani, we're going to help you learn English. So more like a loving teacher where, now in this letter, you think of a mother helping a child, well, now honey, now if you do this, then that's going to work better. And, with just that kind of loving
Good
clarity.
point.
So,
Good point.
so
he was almost
Narayani
never harsh.
wanted to learn, so she was, up for it. And, that word needs to be that way. Thank you, Swami, because now I can learn that word, and do it the right way. So she was totally open, and he was very, very loving in it. And it wasn't any negative energy. Like often criticism has a negativity about it. Often people deliver it with negativity, negative feelings. But that wasn't between the two of them.
Did you ever see him be critical or negative in that negative kind of way with somebody? Did you ever witness it?
Sometimes he would rebuke a person to give. It depends on the nature of the person.
He did to me once.
I mean,
strongly.
if a person was.
Another time.
Yeah, some people needed to be kind of shaken a little psychically to get the point that they needed to listen, or it would have just shrugged it off. So he was strong with people who needed it to be strong. But when people were really gentle and tender and listening, he didn't have to do that. He didn't do that. He didn't ever. I don't think, I haven't asked Narayani this question, but I kind of feel like I would know the answer. I don't think he had to rebuke her because she was so tuning in to the least nuance of how, what do you want me to learn next? What is the next thing you would have me do for my, expansion in consciousness? What's the next thing that's, so I don't think he had to, what did he deliver? Can't you just use your willpower? With her, I don't think he would have had to say, can't you just use your willpower? Come on, girl, wake up. Some people he might have needed to do that to get it. But I think with her, it was more like, well, come on, Narayani, can't you just use your will? Like, try this thing. And then she was willing to try it. So she did. And then she gets the lesson. She gets the encouragement. The power of the mind can overcome anything. And I imagine she would remember that. Sometimes I think it was to make a point. Swami would. I remember he caught me once like that. I was setting up for an event, and I was kerfuffling a little at the last minute because this wasn't right, that wasn't right, the water wasn't in the right place. So I was sort of fussing around like this, and he was ready to sit and bring everybody into meditation, and I was still just a little like 30 seconds or 10 seconds longer than it should have been, I was still like there. He just let me have it by just saying, "That's enough, please sit down," or something like that. And I was just devastated, my face beat red like that. And I just, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And I said, "Okay, God, I've just been corrected. Thank you for that. And now help me learn." And I could get over it. But yeah, he sometimes was sharp, but always with love. It didn't feel personally like he was mad at me. He was just trying to help me learn something.
All right. So this is one of the chants that Lahari hoped we could sing tonight, and we'll use this to just lead us into a final short meditation. Sickness a dream, then health is sweet. Sickness a dream, when thy song flows through me, my Lord, when thy song flows through me. Then praise is sweet, and blame a dream, then praise is sweet, and blame a dream, when thy song flows through me, my Lord, when thy song flows through me. Oh, life is sweet, then joy is sweet, then health is sweet, then praise is sweet, and blame a dream, then praise is sweet, and blame a dream, when thy song flows through me, my Lord, when thy song flows through me, when thy song flows through me, my Lord, when thy song flows through me. Let's take that sentiment into a 4 or 5 minute final meditation.